Over this last week, I've talked to a lot of people about AI tools for small businesses, and something stood out. Everybody knew the names. They knew ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and Copilot. But when we actually got into the product and what it actually entails, the differences got fuzzy fast. So as you might have noticed, if you use most of the models today, they're very similar, especially with easy tasks or easy questions. You usually get kind of the same response. And now the models are differentiating more on its ability to do difficult and complex tasks. So it matters a lot understanding the differences between these models and deciding which one to use, especially when you are recommending it. So it's not about just telling a client or a small business to go use AI or even use ChatGPT. The real question is which AI tool fits the work that this business actually wants you to do. So in this video, I'm going to compare ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and Microsoft Copilot from a business point of view. I'm not going to do a model benchmark to see which model has the best scores. I'm not going to do a hype list. This is just a practical buying and workflow decision. And I will tell you which one I would choose first. The mistake I see is starting with the logo or the hype. Someone says, should we use ChatGPT or is Claude better? We already pay for Google. Should we use Gemini? Those are understandable questions, but they skip the most important step. And that step is, what are we hiring AI to do? So are we trying to write better customer emails? Are we trying to summarize meetings, create proposals, clean up messy notes, or analyze spreadsheets? Once you know the job, the tool choice gets much clearer. So this is where I personally land. If I was to start up a business, I would personally choose ChatGPT as the default first AI workspace. And then for analysts, writers, or teams that live in long documents, I would seriously consider Claude Team. But for businesses that are already deep into certain workspaces like Microsoft or Google, then I would just go with either Gemini or Copilot. That is the simple answer, but now I'll explain exactly why. So with ChatGPT Business, it is the most flexible default choice and it is an easy entry into AI. The reason I like it is because it's not only tied to one type of work. You can use it for writing, brainstorming, analyzing files, creating repeatable assistance, organizing projects, generating images, researching, and working with business documents. Plus the chat interface and the way they organize chats and they have projects that you can share. It just makes it better than some of the other options I would choose, for example, Gemini. What OpenAI describes ChatGPT Business as is a shared workspace with centralized billing, admin controls, usage visibility, spend controls, access to ChatGPT and codecs depends on seat type, and there's no training on workspace data. For a small team, that matters because the business does not want every employee using random personal AI accounts with no shared process. Where ChatGPT really shines is general business writing, idea generation, customer email drafts, spreadsheet or file analysis, quick research and synthesis, custom GPTs or reusable assistants, and then my personal favorite is the internal projects that they have. Keeps everything really organized and you can share those projects with team members. Training a team on one common AI workspace is also a huge benefit. You also have skills that you can create workflows on that you can then share. Now, where I would be careful with using it is if your business already lives in Google or Microsoft, ChatGPT just may become one more separate app that you have to copy and paste work into. I've noticed this at my job. I do have it, and most of the time I am copy and pasting, but I still get a lot of use out of it. And then another issue that could possibly come up when you start using it is if nobody sets up naming projects, the workspace can become really messy. So you have to make sure your architecture is there, especially if you're sharing projects, skills, and stuff like that. And then the last thing is, if your team does handle sensitive information, you still need some internal guidelines on what can and cannot be pasted into the chat. So if anybody were to come to me and ask which one I should start with, and you are not committed to Google or Microsoft, I would recommend them ChatGPT Business. Going to the second tool is Claude Team, which is very similar to ChatGPT. They have a lot of the same features. And then Claude Team also has some more features that ChatGPT doesn't. Claude is for a team that does a lot of thinking on documents. So that would be like writers, strategy teams, operations people, policy heavy teams, people who need to turn messy information into clear, structured output. And then also recently with the release of Claude Design, I would definitely recommend it for people who are doing front-end web design or product design, stuff like that. Anthropic positions Claude Team for teams of 5 to 150. With standard premium seats, Claude emphasizes projects, shared expertise through skills as well. Long context work, they have a huge context window. Research, artifacts, connectors, and collaboration. So the main reason I like Claude in a small business context is the quality of writing and synthesis. Claude often feels very strong when you give a long document, a messy set of notes, or a complex explanation. So where Claude shines, long document analysis, consulting deliverables, so it's great at generating documents, whether Excels, PowerPoints, or Word documents, or even PDFs. It also is good at proposals and reports, strategy memos, internal SOPs, policy interpretation, brand voice and writing style, thoughtful reasonings through trade-offs. The team plan requirement and seat structure may not fit very small teams, so you have to be careful of that. Pricing and features can shift by seat and plan, so verify before buying. If the team mainly needs deep integration inside Outlook, Teams, or Gmail, or Docs, Claude may be less native than Copilot or Gemini, so keep that in mind. So my take on this is Claude is very similar to ChatGPT. They almost neck and neck when it comes to the actual frontier race and who has a better model. Both of them have Claude Desktop and then Codex the desktop, where you could work on local files and you could also deploy agents. ChatGPT just came out with the new AI agents, which I haven't tried yet, but that might pull ChatGPT ahead a little bit, but Claude is about to launch something similar. So I would say either way, both of these are great tools. Either way, I don't think you could go wrong with either one of these. I think both of them has the benefits and then some of the drawbacks. So going on to Gemini for Google Workspace. So Gemini's strongest argument is simple. If your business already runs on Google Workspace, Gemini is where the work already is, so you don't have to integrate in ChatGPT or Claude, which takes a little bit of technical expertise. Google says Gemini is built into tools like Gmail, Docs, Sheets, Meet, Chat, Vids, and more, with standalone tools like Gemini app and also Notebook LM, which Notebook LM I highly recommend. It is a great tool. You could put a ton of documents in there and there's so many different applications for it. So where Gemini really shines is its integration into Google Workspace, whether it's helping you summarize emails, draft emails, make automations with emails, working inside Google Docs. You don't have to copy and paste over anything. It helps you with sheet and drive content, meeting notes in Google Meet. That's nice because you don't have to go outside to an AI note taker. You just have one within your workspace. Research and source grounded work with Notebook LM, which it really is one of my favorite tools. Where I would be careful with Gemini when it comes to if the team's not already using workspace heavy. Gemini does lose some of its advantages. I think the standalone Gemini AI is definitely below ChatGPT and Claude just because of its organization and its chat. I feel like it does struggle more with generating documents. A lot of the times it's really hard to actually generate a slide deck, and oftentimes it messes up while doing that. So I think the standalone Gemini is worse than ChatGPT and Claude, but I think where it makes up for that is its integration into everything else. So my take on this is if you are integrated really deeply into a Google workspace, then I would definitely test Gemini. I recently did this last week and I was really shocked at the automations I was able to do with it and how accurate and actually useful they were. So I would definitely recommend evaluating it before going outside. And our last tool, which is Microsoft 365 Copilot, it's pretty much the same argument. So if you are in a Microsoft platform, you're going to want to test out before you actually go and find another AI platform. So Microsoft Copilot says that it pairs with Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, Teams, Loop, and other Microsoft 365 apps. It can also use content through Microsoft Graph while respecting what the user has permission to access. So from my own experience, I do not have too much experience with Microsoft Copilot, but from what I've seen, it's probably the most privacy and security orientated out of the four. But it does also have access to ChatGPT's models. So when you are talking to it in Copilot, you can use that. So where it shines, similar to Gemini, it shines in its integrations with email summaries, team meetings and follow-ups, Word document drafting and editing, PowerPoint creations, Excel help with formulas, charts, and insights, and then also SharePoint and Microsoft 365 knowledge retrieval. But with that being said, one thing to watch out for is it really depends how clean your Microsoft environment is. If it is messy and the permissions are messy, then it will really affect how Copilot works. Another thing to keep in mind is licensing and tenant configuration can affect experience. And then it also may be overkill for very small businesses that only use Microsoft lightly. So again, my take was similar with Gemini. If you already are on Microsoft and you're heavily using it and your SharePoint and Microsoft 365 knowledge is clean, then I would definitely recommend trying that out before you outsource another AI model. There's 5 questions you could ask yourself to determine which one you should be using. So question 1 is, do you already live on Google Workspace? If yes, then you probably want to go with Gemini. If no, we'll go question 2. So do you live on Microsoft 365? So both of these questions are interchangeable. So if you live on either of these, you'll probably go with Copilot or Gemini. Then question 3, do you need a flexible AI workspace that can help across many different tasks? And if that's yes, then I'd definitely go with ChatGPT. And then if your work mostly involves around research, strategy, document analysis, and consulting deliverables, I would definitely say Claude. And then the last one, are you trying to choose for a team and not just yourself? If yes, look at admin controls, data handling, billing permissions, and how people will actually use it every week. So in conclusion, my main recommendation is if you are not deeply integrated into anything, I would recommend going with ChatGPT Business first. But you can also go with Claude Team and also have a great experience with it and get a lot out of it. I will be covering more into ChatGPT and all the offerings that you do get when you get a business account. And then I'll also do the same for Claude's teams, just so you guys can see exactly everything you get when you do sign up, and then how to actually work them. And then eventually I will do some automations that you could use with these two tools. I'll mostly stick to that and maybe do some Gemini videos, but if you guys like the content and want to see more, then please like and subscribe.